Good morning. I'm going to share with you an innovation in assessment. This is going to focus on the use of ChatGPT, an advanced language model, in the teaching in accounting. So, firstly, students engage using this assessment with interactive learning. In other words, they're going to create a chart, and that is going to be a way to foster active problem solving and improve their critical thinking with their engagement with ChatGPT. It also hopefully will give them a deeper understanding of the chart that they're creating, which is effectively a chart on company break-even dynamics. As part of this, they've got to utilize other software and programming coding, and as a result, that enhances their knowledge of that at the same time. I believe that this is a positive approach to generative AI and one which essentially embraces it because this is a technology that is not going to be going away. So let's talk a little bit about generative AI. I'm sure you're all aware of it. Effectively, it's where users input encoded information that the model can understand. It's then pre-trained to understand context and relationship between words, phrases, and structure. It then expands that using various interactions in an iterative model, and it identifies patterns and recognizes sequences of words whereby from the prompts, it will give probability distributions to generate the next sequence of words. It also does this with coding. What it doesn't do, because as you can see, it is focused on words, is very well handle mathematical problems and/or graphical output. So the accounting profession is going to be revolutionized by artificial intelligence and ChatGPT. And so in that respect, it's incumbent upon us as educators to embrace it. So we at Ulster have been adapting this in our pedagogy. We have effectively an approach to the student from the point of view of trying to increase their human skills, their thinking skills, and their technical and professional skills. So in this respect, what we're trying to do is both be agile and improve cognitive flexibility with this assessment, and also be able to understand the extent from a thinking perspective of creativity and innovation, and bring to the table, obviously, a better understanding of the taught course. The required skill, in particular, is an interaction with expert systems. So in this respect, Thomas defines expert systems as computer programs storing expert knowledge and stimulating reasoning process for issue resolution. So in that respect, if you look at the diagram on the right there, unless you're bringing in knowledge from an expert, you are only partially using, for example, these tools, these generative AI tools. Now, this is important because aside from this assignment, these will benefit a number of areas, or AI in particular will benefit a number of areas such as internal control, audit planning, financial statement development, inventory control, and such like. So here's the assignment. Important thing about the assignment, if you look at the top, is the use of ChatGPT is permitted, very explicitly stated, and it's also very explicitly stated that this is a formative exercise. The task is to create a break-even chart that shows the points where total revenue equals total costs, resulting in a zero profit and loss, obviously, using ChatGPT. The explanation of the chart explicitly tells them to interact with ChatGPT, seek for clarifications, for prompts, and also to use troubleshooting to resolve problems, which they will get because the graphs that they generate will not be optimal or indeed be correct. And therefore, they need to continue to input prompts to improve the desired outcomes. So in that respect, they need to, by incorporating those prompts, keep a record of their responses, and that's part of, as we'll show, the assessment later. So the evaluation of the task is how clearly they put in prompts, how complete they are, how much accuracy goes into that, record of the prompts, and importantly, the chart outcomes, because obviously ChatGPT is not producing a chart outcome. They're producing that encoding language, which they then have to import into their compiler and then demonstrate that and present that as part of their results. So here is inputting the first prompt. And in that respect, if you ask them ChatGPT to produce a break-even chart showing the point where total revenues and costs are, and specify, for example, what coding language you want it to use, which in this case is code is TIC-Z, then it comes with a really impressive output, which you can copy into your compiler. That's what I've done here. And as you can see, it's taken a stab at it. It's produced a nice presentable chart between revenue and quantity with a break-even point and a break-even line. However, as you know, that's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is a relationship between total cost, variable and fixed, against revenue with some plot on the X and Y between, for example, dollars or pounds or euros and the number of units. So in that respect, what we need to do is to improve, so explaining in the prompt that what you want to do is add total fixed and variable costs. It misinterprets that in this instance as you wanting to have a descriptor on the chart, and so it just adds the description, which obviously wasn't what we'd intended. Remember, it's a word generation model. So then if you then prompt that actually you want it to add additional lines to the chart, it does that, but it doesn't know what you want from those lines. There's no sense of vector space. So it, again, has a very good attempt at producing these, but it finishes them at the blue line here with a dotted line for fixed cost and total costs. Again, what we want to do is we can then, for example, tell it to extend that line, and then we can see that there's with a relationship to quantity, we can see that it can do that. But again, what we're doing is we're now being more interactive and understanding what it is that we want to achieve with this chart. It still hasn't got variable costs, so essentially putting in a prompt to produce a diagonal variable cost line produces this. And the trouble with this, as you can see, is that obviously where it starts on the x-axis isn't where we want it to start, because we want variable costs to be additive. As I said, it's not an additive model from fixed costs. So that then is something that we might have to do, well, that we do have to do manually. So as you can see, the highlighted area here, the dashed area, I can change the vector inputs in the code to plot that. But that requires an understanding of how to plot in vectors and how and what the code is actually saying. So it enhances my understanding of the coding as well as understanding what I'm trying to achieve by the chart. And as you can see now, what I've achieved is what I've tried to do. I've also had to move what it thought was the break-even point from fixed cost to break-even to total variable costs by fixed costs. So I had to manually move the descriptor of the label on the chart itself. But either way, what I now have is something more akin to what I want to have. And obviously from here, they can beautify it, add a bit more about the cost revenue, what currency it's in, euros, for example, what the quantity represents, and so forth. But as you can see, what we've done is we've managed to achieve from a word model a understanding of how to create charts. So in conclusion, what I want to do with this formulative exercise is to one, embrace change, incorporate ChatGPT into teaching, use it to provide this formative education, use it to interact with coding, and use it to effectively incorporate prompts and formative learning into the evaluation. So I then, or whoever is marking this, will look at the prompts and decide whether or not they achieve the goal in the most optimal time. Thank you very much.